The Springboks may have produced one of their least convincing victories of the season, but the 17-10 win over Argentina could ultimately become far more valuable than a comfortable victory because it tested something that cannot easily be measured on a scoreboard: character under pressure. On paper, the performance offered plenty of encouragement to the All Blacks, who were preparing for the enormous rugby's greatest rivalry series, but New Zealand should be careful about reading too much into what happened in Buenos Aires. South Africa were far from their best. Their attack repeatedly stalled, several returning players looked understandably rusty, and Argentina had a golden opportunity to steal the result right at the end. Yet the defining characteristic of the Springboks remained intact. When the game became chaotic and uncomfortable, they found a way to win. That is precisely the quality that has helped Rassie Erasmus build one of the most successful teams in modern international rugby. The match began with Argentina showing exactly why they remain such a dangerous opponent. Their defense was aggressive, their line speed was impressive, and their willingness to challenge the Springboks physically prevented South Africa from establishing the control they normally seek. Instead of allowing the visitors to settle into their rhythm, Los Pumas repeatedly forced mistakes and made every attacking phase feel difficult. For South Africa, this was particularly challenging because so many players were returning from extended periods without Test rugby. 5 members of the starting team had not played for approximately 8 months, while the squad was also missing numerous established players. That context is important because international rugby is not a sport where players can simply return after a long absence and immediately reproduce their best form. Timing, communication, fitness, combinations, and decision-making all require match experience. Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu provided one of the clearest examples. The talented Springboks fly half showed flashes of his ability, but his execution was inconsistent, and Argentina successfully pressured him into errors. Compared with the previous occasions when Feinberg-Mngomezulu had demonstrated his enormous potential, this was a quieter performance. Yet the most important fact is that he got valuable minutes into his legs. If Erasmus wants him ready for the biggest test matches, experience under pressure is essential, and the difficult evening in Buenos Aires could prove useful later. On the other side, Santiago Carreras delivered a highly composed performance for Argentina and showed why he remains such an influential figure for Los Pumas. His control of the game helped Argentina maintain pressure and prevented the Springboks from dictating the contest. The battle between Carreras and Feinberg-Mngomezulu demonstrated the difference between a player operating with confidence and one still rebuilding his rhythm. For Erasmus, the contrast is not necessarily worrying. It is simply another reminder that preparation for the biggest tests involves putting players through difficult situations before they are expected to perform at their absolute peak. The Springboks also experienced significant disruption when captain Siya Kolisi left the field with what appeared to be another hamstring problem. That immediately changed the mood because Kolisi remains one of the most important leaders in South African rugby. His influence extends far beyond his carries and tackles. He provides emotional stability, understands how to manage pressure, and has experienced the biggest moments of the Springboks' recent history. Erasmus attempted to remain positive about the injury, but the situation will naturally be watched closely because the All Blacks series is approaching rapidly. If Kolisi is unavailable, South Africa will need another leader to step forward, and the performance of Pablo Matera for Argentina offered an interesting reminder of how influential experienced loose forwards can be. Matera, operating as a stand-in captain, produced an enormous performance and demonstrated leadership throughout the contest. His ability to combine physicality with composure helped Argentina stay in the fight until the final moments. Yet, if there was one South African forward who emerged with his reputation strengthened, it was Cameron Hanekom. Making his first start at number 8, Hanekom showed exactly why Erasmus and the wider South African rugby system are so excited about his future. His work rate was outstanding, his breakdown contributions were important, and he repeatedly involved himself in the physical battle. Most importantly, he scored the decisive try from a 5-meter scrum, giving the Springboks the lead during a period when they desperately needed points. Hanekom was not perfect, but that is precisely why the performance was so encouraging. He demonstrated that he can make an impact even when the team around him is struggling to find fluency. His emergence gives Erasmus another valuable option in a position where competition is already fierce. Another major positive was the performance of the replacements, once again highlighting the extraordinary depth available to the Springboks. The famous Bomb Squad did not necessarily destroy Argentina, but it changed the balance of the contest. Fresh forwards added energy, improved the physical contest, and eventually created the conditions for Hanekom to score. That is a familiar pattern for South Africa, but it remains incredibly difficult for opponents to deal with. A team can defend against the starting Springboks for 60 minutes and still find itself facing a completely different challenge when the replacements arrive. The importance of that depth cannot be overstated as the Springboks prepare for a brutal sequence of matches. Their upcoming schedule will demand enormous physical and mental resilience, and Erasmus needs as many players as possible to be ready for Test rugby. That is why minutes for players such as Eben Etzebeth and Lood de Jager were valuable, even if neither produced a flawless performance. Etzebeth remains one of the most important physical presences in the South African pack, and giving him additional game time before facing the All Blacks was essential. De Jager, meanwhile, has had his own battles with fitness, so getting him back onto the field was another step forward. The Springboks will need both players operating at a high level if they are going to challenge the physicality of New Zealand. The backline also produced a mixture of positives and concerns. Edwill van der Merwe was one of the brightest performers, scoring the try that brought South Africa back into the contest before halftime. His work rate was relentless, particularly in chasing kicks and supporting defensive pressure. Canan Moodie showed excellent skill in the build-up to that score, while Andre Esterhuizen produced one of the most impressive pieces of individual skill in the match with his catch and offload. Those moments demonstrate that the Springboks are capable of producing attacking brilliance even when their overall structure is not functioning perfectly. The problem is consistency. Afalil Fassi had moments of quality but also committed several handling errors, while Cobus Renock struggled at times to generate the attacking rhythm the team needed. These are exactly the details Erasmus will want to fix before the All Blacks arrive. Against New Zealand, opportunities may be limited, and every handling error or poorly executed attacking sequence could carry a much heavier price. That is where the comparison with the All Blacks becomes particularly interesting. New Zealand also experienced a difficult opening to their South African tour against the Stormers, eventually winning 38-21 but taking a significant amount of time to establish control. Like the Springboks, the All Blacks have areas they need to improve. Dave Rennie will have seen moments of attacking quality from his team, but he will also have noticed weaknesses in areas such as the set piece, discipline, aerial contests, and consistency. The important difference is that New Zealand still have additional matches to sharpen their combinations before the major tests, whereas the Springboks have fewer opportunities to test themselves on the field. That could become an important advantage for Rennie. More matches mean more opportunities to correct mistakes, build confidence, and discover which combinations work best. Erasmus, however, has something the All Blacks cannot easily replicate: a culture built around pressure and resilience. The Springboks have repeatedly shown that they do not need to play beautifully to win. Their greatest strength may be their ability to remain composed when everything begins going wrong. The final moments against Argentina demonstrated that perfectly. Los Pumas had an opportunity to equalize or potentially win the match when they launched one final attacking sequence, and Matthias Moroni appeared to have a chance near the try line. But the crucial mistake came at exactly the wrong moment, allowing South Africa to escape. From an All Blacks perspective, that should not simply be interpreted as evidence that the Springboks are vulnerable. Instead, it should serve as a warning that South Africa can survive even when they are not playing well. The All Blacks cannot expect the same mistakes to save them. If anything, the ugly victory may make the Springboks more dangerous because Erasmus now has a clear list of areas that require attention.